Number 10, Daniel Bryan and the WWE title. Bryan was so beloved he won the WWE title once more in 2018 after booting AJ Styles right in the balls. Now this was kind of odd as it meant Daniel had to turn to the dark side, but we all know the deal. He transformed into an eco-caring warrior that was a joy to watch. None of this was a problem. As WrestleMania 35 loomed closer though, Kofi Kingston stumbled into a position where all of a sudden it seemed like he was destined to win the big one. It was tough to believe because we'd been waiting for this for a decade, so who went out of their way to make sure it happened? Daniel flippin' Bryan. As Kofi has said in multiple interviews, DB ensured that their ending to the story was Kingston winning the title, which means yes, he was telling those in charge he wanted rid of the gold. It was exactly the right move because Kofi winning on that stage was perfect. Let's not talk about how he lost it. Number 9, Chris Benoit and the WCW title. That sold out in January 2000. Bret Hart was set to defend his world title against Sid Vicious. Sadly, the Hitman's concussion issues were about to come to a head, meaning management needed a replacement. They settled on Chris Benoit. The problem was that during this time, Benoit along with his fellow radicals were talking about leaving the company. He was done with not being used and always undermined, so was happy to go, and for some reason, WCW didn't believe him. As such, and hoping it would keep him around, the decision was made to have Benoit win at the pay-per-view and give him his first run as a world champion. None of this did any good. The next night on Nitro, Benoit still wanted to leave, even though he was told in doing so, he would be stripped of the title. I'm sure you figured out he didn't give two hoots about this, so just gave it back and went and joined WWE. World Championship Wrestling in 2000, everyone. An utter mess. Number 8, Becky Lynch and the Raw Women's title. During night 1 of WrestleMania 36, Becky Lynch defended her Women's Championship when she used the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and beat Shayna Baszler. We didn't know it at the time, but it was going to be her last match for a while. Shortly after on Raw, she came to the ring and invited Asuka to join her, where she willingly gave up her belt to the woman who had just won the Money in the Bank briefcase. Of course, Becky was pregnant. The storyline then became the winner of that gimmick match was actually going to be crowned the champ. It was a lovely moment. Amazingly too, this was never the plan. During an appearance on the Bella Twins podcast, Lynch admitted she wanted to lose the title to Shayna and even said as much to management. She also wanted to do that again after she found out she was going to have a child, but we all know the deal. It wasn't happening. It is kind of a shame as it would have helped Baszler no end, but I'm not going to worry about this now. Number 7, Ricky Steamboat and the Intercontinental title. As we all know, during their WrestleMania 3 classic, Ricky Steamboat reversed Randy Savage's scoop slam into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, to become the Intercontinental Champion. It's as good now as it was then. The plan was to have Steamboat hold it for a while, but after a few months, Ricky actually went to Vince McMahon and asked to lose it because he wanted to take some time off. He felt like it was important to be close to his family, especially as his wife was expecting their first son, plus he had a bunch of injuries he needed to recover from. This did not go down well. So on June 13th, Butch Reed was chosen to replace him until he oddly no-showed a Superstars taping. As McMahon tried to find a replacement, Hulk Hogan of all people suggested the Honky Tonk Man, and let's just say Steamboat wasn't pleased. I mean, who wants to lose to the guy who thinks he's Elvis? It also meant when Ricky returned properly, he was never used the same way again, and that just sucked, and it got so bad, he eventually left for WCW. Go figure. Number 6, Tommy Dreamer and the ECW title. Tommy Dreamer loved being the underdog so much he would regularly tell people he never wanted to win a world title. He didn't even want to win a tag team championship until Paul Heyman convinced him otherwise, because Dreamer just didn't think it made sense with his character. It was an interesting take. His dream was to be the guy that always got close, but never won the big one. That all changed at SummerSlam 2000. Once again talked into doing it, Tommy did indeed beat Taz for the ECW world title, but he had one proviso. He wanted to lose it immediately. And so yes, during the same night he won it, he also lost it in an impromptu match versus Just Incredible. As it turned out, this was the best thing he could have done, as it enhanced his persona even more. Even when Tommy Dreamer touched the clouds, he was tragically pulled back down to earth. Number 5, Bruno Sammartino and the WWF World title. Bruno Sammartino held this belt for 2,803 days during a single reign. That record will never be broken because that means he had it for just over 7.5 years. Amazingly too, if Bruno wanted to be so, this stretch could have gone on for longer. Vince McMahon Sr. was more than happy with Sammartino's work and drawing power, but it was Bruno who felt like he needed a break, and a break meant relinquishing the gold. As Sammartino mentioned in many interviews, he just felt beat up as he'd been traveling the world, and given he wasn't one for even taking an aspirin, he just felt like it was the right time to step away. It all resulted in him losing the title to a genuinely shocked crowd on the 18th of January 1971. run. Fans could not believe it when Ivan Koloff beat him in the ring, and the only thing you could use to compare it to the modern day was when Brock Lesnar broke The Undertaker's streak. Surely something must have gone wrong. Fast forward a year and McMahon wanted to put the belt back around Sammartino's waist, which he agreed to do as long as he got more money and a lighter schedule. Smart. Even then though, it was Bruno who decided to ask for this burden to be taken off his back for the same reason as before. He just wanted to rest. Number 4, Ric Flair and the NWA World Title. We all know that Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time, and he carved out a huge part of that legacy when he was the NWA champion. Such was his drawing power, the Nature Boy was invited to the Dominican Republic in 1982 for a world title match against Jack Veneno in front of 14,000 fans. Veneno was a local hero, so promoters knew this would work, so much so that Flair was paid thousands of dollars and a percentage of the live gate for doing it. So we did. This is where wrestling politics slowly came into play. Knowing they wanted to give the crowd something, Jack did indeed get Flair to pass out thanks to a sleeper, although sadly the time limit had expired. It meant while the challenger celebrated like he was a champion, the record books didn't officially recognize it. This of course led to a second match, and this time Rick would win to clear up any confusion. To save face, Roddy Piper would help out, and then he and Flair could get the hell out of there, but it did not go that way. Instead, when Piper tried to interfere, armed guards stopped him, leaving the match in a bit of a pickle. Flair realized there would likely be a riot if he won, so told Jack to roll him up to appease the audience, and that's exactly what happened. It caused the NWA a lot of internal issues for obvious reasons, but let's face it, Flair did this for his own safety. I kinda think that's more important. Number 3, CM Punk and the Ring of Honor World Title. The original Summer of Punk that happened in Ring of Honor in 2005 is widely considered as one of the best runs in the promotion's history. Punk was going for the championship, although had already accepted a deal with WWE, but before leaving was booked in a match against Austin Aries for that title at the Death Before Dishonor 3 show. Obviously it meant CM Punk was going to lose, and then he didn't. In fact, ROH went the other way and had Punk win their major championship before turning on the fans and rubbing it in their face that he was taking the belt and heading to the World Wrestling Federation. The crowd was not happy, especially when Punk legitimately signed his WWE deal on the belt. Oh boy. This was all done because Punk wanted to win it to lose it. He knew this would get a ton of attention, and as he felt strongly about the Ring of Honor product, wanted to give them as much as he possibly could before he left. It worked! Punk would defend this against the likes of Jay Lethal, Roderick Strong, and Christopher Daniels before he finally lost it to James Gibson, better known today as Jamie Noble. It was incredibly innovative, different, and was all designed thanks to one guy wanting to lose a title in the best possible way. Number 2, Shawn Michaels and the European title. Shawn Michaels almost caused a riot in 97 when he won the European Championship from the British Bulldog in the UK at the One Night Only event. This was mostly because it had been made very clear that Davey Boy Smith was going to be victorious until the Heartbreak Kid got Vince McMahon to change his mind. A few months later, Michaels also won the WWF title, meaning he was now a double champion. Everyone agreed they had to get the European belt off of him, and as ever, we all went with Shawn's idea. That time it was to lose it to Buddy Triple H in what would turn out to be a bit of a joke match. The story went that Commissioner Sergeant Slaughter got sick of D-Generation X's antics, so put Buddy against Buddy, and when we got there, well, yeah. Triple H won the thing in about a minute after running the ropes as if it was the first time he'd ever done so, and when all was said and done, Michaels pretended to cry. If you want to call this the original finger poke of doom, well, you can. Number 1, Eddie Guerrero and the WWE title. Eddie Guerrero winning the big one at No Way Out 2004 was awesome. After years of climbing the ladder, he actually did it by beating Brock Lesnar, no less, and it was one of those moments when every fan in the world just felt happy. And you know why? Because it felt right. Given that Lesnar left the company soon after this, WWE needed a new bad guy for Eddie, so Bradshaw of all people was transformed into John Bradshaw Layfield and managed to be reviled by the fans. To help with this, Guerrero even said that JBL should win the championship. The reason for it was twofold. Firstly, Eddie knew it would help the character be even more hated, but he was also struggling with the pressures that being the champion brought. TV ratings and house show numbers were falling, and being the old school guy that he was, Guerrero decided that he was to blame. He was the top dude, and it wasn't working. So it transpired that at the Great American Bash, JBL beat Eddie in a Texas bull rope match, and the rest is sad history. Bradshaw has said time and time again that without this, and Eddie Guerrero in general, his new persona would never have caught on like it did, and he is likely correct.